Hey, good morning. I'm Patricia Murphy. It's Wednesday. This is Seattle Now. Sue Bird was forever immortalized this past weekend into the Basketball Hall of Fame. After 21 years in Seattle, it's easy to see why. Seattle Now sports correspondent Vaughan is here to paint the full picture of Sue Bird, the player, activist, and Seattle icon. But first, let's get you caught up. We're about to find out how Washington students are doing in math and English language arts. State School Superintendent Chris Rakedahl will share results this morning from the Washington 2025 statewide assessments. Nationally, reading scores for 12th graders are the worst they've been since 1992. As for how Washington students are doing, Rakedahl's announcement streams live at 10 a.m. on TVW. A law that aims to prevent predatory home buying in Seattle could take a step forward today. Mayor Bruce Harrell proposed the law, which would give homeowners the right to an independent appraisal paid for by the buyer, plus a 10-day grace period to back out of the deal. The City Council's Land Use Committee plans to vote in its meeting at 9:30 this morning. We'll have more headlines on tonight's episode of Seattle Now. Before we move on, a quick reminder to please support this show. It's KUOW's fall fundraising drive this week, and it's a big one. A small but important part of our budget was eliminated when we lost federal funding. You can help by contributing now at KUOW.org. Each day, you rely on Seattle Now to keep you informed and up to date about our city's most important issues, and we rely on you. So thanks for financially supporting our work. The link to give is in the show notes.
By the way, don't let my last couple years in the WNBA fool you. I was fast. Sometimes they show these old highlights, and anyone knows if you play a long time, they only show your later ones. Where are those young years, you know?
Sue Bird has been immortalized in Seattle in more ways than one. A street named after her, a statue outside of Climate Pledge Arena, and her jersey in the rafters. But this weekend, Bird reached a new level of immortality, the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. Bird's influence on basketball and culture in Seattle and beyond can't really be quantified, but Seattle Now sports correspondent Vaughan Jones is here to try. Vaughan, thanks for taking the time. Good to see you in the studio.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Vaughan, people usually get inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame for their on-court accomplishments, so we better start with those. Lay them on me.
All right. So if you go to my favorite website, Basketball Reference, you can look at a franchise's individual leaders. Sue Bird shows up 12 times in the Seattle Storm's categories. She has 6,800 points, 1,000 three-pointers, 700 steals. Those are all Storm franchise records. She also holds several WNBA records for minutes played, games played, that's a lot of longevity, assists, that's basketball IQ, and the WNBA record for wins. Talk about constant success.
All right.
She has 4 rings. I don't think I can overstate how hard it is to win one championship, much less 4. Sue helped turn the Storm into the most decorated franchise in all of Seattle sports. She did that by being a steady leader and a smart player on the court for all 580 games she played over 21 years. I'm going to say that again, 580 games over 21
That's
years.
a lot. Yeah.
I want to put a point on that because Sue suffered a really bad injury. She tore her ACL in her knee her freshman year at the University of Connecticut, and her career could have been over there, but she still managed to play for 24 more years after that. She's got 5 Olympic gold medals. She won every time she went, every 4 years, like clockwork. Sue is so synonymous with Team USA basketball that she was voted by members of Team USA to be a flag bearer in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics.
I'd like to announce that Sue will be the flag bearer for Team USA.
It's a well-known fact, Trish, that I love basketball, and I just love a true, pure point guard who elevates the rest of her team, and Sue Bird is that to a T. There's a story in the Seattle Times this week from the Storm beat writer Percy Allen that I really liked, that I felt summed up Sue on the court really well. Ezzy Magbagor, who plays for the team now at center, said her first impression of Sue Bird was a text message that she got from Sue. She said it was just the word hey and nothing else. And then the second text message was a clip of game film telling her what to do and where she needed to be on certain plays in order to help the team be successful.
All right, so tough, but also a mentor, Vaughan. Also a mentor. Bird's a player with household name recognition. There are thumbtacked Sue Bird posters in kids' rooms right now, probably for the past 20 years. Let's talk about some signature moments for Sue. What are the highlights that fans will always keep with them?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Trish, I grew up in Phoenix, and it felt like the Phoenix Mercury and the Storm were playing in the playoffs basically every year. When I think of Sue Bird, I think of 2018. I actually interviewed both Sue and Mercury legend Diana Taurasi about the matchup. They played at the University of Connecticut together, and they were number one overall picks 2 years apart. And I can attest that Sue feels very much larger than life when you meet her in person. I was 19 and very nervous. That series came down to a deciding Game 5, and in the fourth quarter, Sue Bird just sort of decided that the game was over. She dropped 14 points in the fourth quarter and won the Storm that game. And I want to note, before you hear some highlights, she was wearing a face mask because she had a broken nose she sustained 2 days earlier.
Stewart couldn't finish, no foul. Howard keeps it alive. Bird connects! It's Sue Bird's building! Whitcomb will back it out and get it into the arms of Bird. Bird will take, you bet! She's unconscious right now! 9 on the glass. Bird will let it wind. 8 to shoot. Bird heaves, truth!
I talked to Josie Doomlau, who you may recognize if you've been to Storm games. She's a diehard fan, a season ticket holder, and is often holding like a big picture frame or backboard that says Storm Crazies on it. She said she grew up watching Bird, and this in 2018 was her favorite Sue Bird moment.
I can still imagine it, like being just in that arena that day where it was so packed, like it was so intense that like I was literally in my seat praying that day, like, come on, we gotta win this Game 5. We gotta win it.
They did win, and they swept the finals that year for ring number 3 for Sue. In 2010, Bird hit a game-winning three-pointer to send the Storm to the finals again against the Mercury. I promise I'm over it. Sure, that was cool, but then she hit another game winner in the very next game, Game 1 of the finals that year at Key Arena in Seattle.
Final possession. Bird around the screen, wide open. Got another one. Seattle, the 2-point lead.
That's 2 high-leverage playoff games in a row where she just willed the Storm to a win, and she got a nickname that I don't think I'm allowed to say on air.
Super interesting. What a career, Vaughan. And obviously the kind of stuff that gets you a jersey hanging from the rafters at Climate Pledge. But Bird's career really doesn't compare to her counterparts in men's sports because the WNBA wasn't where it is now when Sue was drafted. What did she mean to Seattle off the court?
I think that's a really great question. There are plenty of great athletes in Seattle history and plenty with their jerseys retired, but to be a Hall of Famer and be a real staple in your community, you have to take extra steps like Sue did. Sue, of course, in her time in Seattle, inspired quite a few basketball players. There are endless photos of signs at Storm games that say things like, I want to be like Sue, and Sue Bird is my hero. There is proof of Sue's influence. Legendary UW point guard and 2017 number 1 overall pick Kelsey Plum met Sue Bird at a banquet her freshman year of high school. She looked Sue right in her eyes and said, "Hi, my name is Kelsey Plum. I'm going to be like you someday." Bird's influence is everywhere in the modern WNBA, and as you mentioned, not something to take for granted because even though women's basketball is in a really good place right now, it looked a lot different when she was drafted. She was part of a generation of stars that helped grow the game, and she became a household name in Seattle and watched through her career as the WNBA grew in viewership and attendance. She referenced this in her Hall of Fame speech this past weekend.
When you play in the WNBA for years, we were told the league's not going to make it, that it wasn't important. But we're in Massachusetts, so like the great Will Hunting once said, how do you like them apples?
When she was growing up playing basketball, there was no WNBA, and now the league is selling out arenas, expanding with more teams, and Sue Bird is a big part of that on multiple levels, while being the star on Seattle's only professional basketball team for most of her career. She also influenced the city's design choices a bit. She's got her statue outside of Climate Pledge. She's the first women's basketball player to have a dedicated statue outside of a WNBA arena. One of the streets leading up to the arena is now called Sue Bird Court. That happened last year, and she's got her own mural outside the arena as well. Sue told this really heartwarming story during her Hall of Fame speech about finding a sense of belonging in Seattle, and I'll just let this run because Sue is a really great storyteller.
Flash forward 12 years living in a new coast in Seattle where you get shunned if you jaywalk, but you're a wimp if you use an umbrella. It was an adjustment. But one day I was swimming at the gym. I went into the pro shop to buy some new goggles. The cashier behind the desk asked my last name to pull the account up. So I said, Bird. And she goes, oh, like Sue Bird. And I was like, yeah, exactly. And she goes, what's your first name? I was like, Sue. She did a double take, gave an embarrassed chuckle, explained that she's not a sports fan, but she watches the news. And just like that, this New Yorker felt like I belonged in Seattle.
What a great story, Vaughan. Sue Bird always doing the most, but also an activist during her playing career, something that's become part of the brand of many players in the WNBA league as a whole. Let's talk about how Sue Bird used her platform.
She's definitely been an advocate for women's basketball. She spent time as the WNBA Players Association vice president, and in 2020, she negotiated a new contract between the players and the league that led to a substantial increase in compensation for the players. So it's a really big deal. Actively more money in pockets for WNBA players because of Sue. And during that 2020 WNBA bubble season, when players stayed at a secure site in Florida, Bird, as a member of the Players Association, said that activism was a, quote, non-negotiable when they were talking about the terms of that season. Players wore shirts that read Black Lives Matter and say her name in honor of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. She's also an LGBTQ plus advocate in one of the most high-profile queer relationships in the world. It was a big moment in sports history when Sue came out publicly as a lesbian and announced that she was dating Megan Rapinoe in an article in ESPNW in 2017. She's also since poured some money into media companies that have queer advocacy as core tenets, and she and Megan were spotted at the Wild Rose on Capitol Hill last month celebrating Sue's new statue outside of Climate Pledge, doing fireball shots.
All right, there you go. There you go. Well, back to the team, Vaughan. The Storm were really successful with Bird before she retired from the WNBA in 2022. Where have the Storm been since then?
I think it's fair to say it's been a little turbulent. The first year without Bird, which everyone expected to be rough, was rough. 11 wins, 29 losses. They bounced back the next year with 25 wins, but got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. That's far from the heights that they often reached with Bird on the court. They've also had some personnel turbulence. Jewel Lloyd, who played and won 2 championships alongside Sue Bird, left on bad terms this offseason after alleging bullying and harassment from the Storm coaching staff. They just barely made the playoffs again this year. Jury is still out on how they do, but the WNBA postseason starts on Sunday. Josie Doomlau, that Storm superfan from earlier, says the difference with and without Sue is noticeable.
You're missing that voice that you really need, that real punch. Her being that leader when she was on the team, you could see the whole vibes with the team just kind of melt together.
Leadership really is the key word here, and we now know that Sue Bird was texting rookies game film, leading off the court as an activist, doing all the things that are expected of a Hall of Fame level leader. And when you lose that, it's really hard to replace.
Yeah. For me, the thing that I love about Sue Bird is her energy. She's a dynamo, man. She's the kind of person who has the ability to bring a team and even a room together, to fight for fair pay. That is a unique quality. She is a fantastic ambassador for this sport. It makes me wonder what space she'll occupy now that she's retired, Vaughan.
Yeah, it's, of course, easier to influence a game when you're on the court playing the game, right? But Sue is not going anywhere. She put some of the money that she earned during her playing career back into the Storm. She is in the ownership group for the team now, and you'll often see her courtside at games, even though she technically, quote unquote, lives in New York. I'll believe it when I see it. She's also involved in a lot of media. She's got her own podcasts, plural. She made a joke at her Hall of Fame speech that she's, quote, given a lot of speeches this summer, so you'll keep seeing her face in a lot of different places. The WNBA has a new generation of ambassadors on the court, but this will make her the perfect person to keep pushing the league forward kind of from the outside. And the best part is, even though she grew up in New York and quote unquote lives there now, I'm skeptical, she's kind of ours. Sue Bird is synonymous with Seattle. She played here in Seattle for 21 years without a single doubt that she ever really wanted to be anywhere else. And now she's got a statue and a Hall of Fame plaque to prove it.
All right. Well, Sue Bird will always have a home here, and if she's not here, you can always visit the statue. Vaughan Jones is Seattle Now sports correspondent. Really appreciate it, Vaughan. Always a pleasure.
Sue Bird, please come on our podcast.
Thanks for listening to Seattle Now. Today's episode was produced by somewhat bitter Phoenix Mercury fan Vaughan Jones. It was edited by the one among us most likely to get a Storm logo tattoo, Paige Browning. Our production team also includes Andy Hurst, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Caroline Chamberlain Gomez. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. Born and raised in Bird's neck of the woods, I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.